Hey guys, welcome to another video on Bharat in Germany. My name is Bharat, and in this video, we have a very special guest with us who is Manan from Estonia. He also has his own YouTube channel where he uploads things about Estonia, lifestyle, how is it to live there, and so on. So, Manan, tell us a bit more about yourself, and then we jump into our questions.
So my name is Manan. I've been living in Estonia for about a little bit more than 7 years now. I'm originally from Pakistan, and I'm working in Estonia for about 5 years now as a mechanical engineer. So yeah,
That's
that's it.
that's very cool. So, like, how did you end up at Estonia?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Everybody gets this question a lot when you're in Estonia. But what had happened was that I was looking for a program actually, and I wanted it to be a scholarship because I couldn't really afford to study by myself. And I wanted the program to be a mix of design and engineering. And because I'm a mechanical engineer from my bachelor's, and I wanted to do a little bit more design. So I was searching for programs and I was applying for different scholarships. And I got the Erasmus Mundus scholarship back in 2014.
That's very nice.
And I was able to secure that. And since it was in Estonia, then I came here. And when I was in my final semester, I got the opportunity to work in this company that I'm currently working. So yeah, since then I've been here.
Okay. Interesting. And I know that many people they think about, let's say, studying in other countries and then afterwards end up, let's say, moving to Germany or France or something.
Mm.
So did that thing cross your mind, or is it like Estonia is nice enough that it's like not really a priority right now?
I think it's a very good question. And I must say that I've thought repeatedly about that. I mean, but eventually, when you kind of grow up and you mature and then you realize that, okay, the grass will always be greener on the other side, but there are some things that you're getting here that you're not really looking at, so
Mhm.
it's better to enjoy what you have. And secondly, the whole process of moving to another place, settling, and then just that transition, I thought, yeah, I'd have to go through that again. So better just stay here, make it better as much as I can.
So I tell you my story about Estonia, like, what I know. So essentially when we were like, starting our business in Germany and stuff, and in the starting, it's very nice. Like, you are starting out as a small business and German government gives you like extra incentives that you don't have to pay VAT and things like that. You don't have to do all of these filings. And it's actually a very nice experience starting a business in Germany. But then you become a proper like bigger business, and then you have to start doing all of this paperwork. And for me it was like I'm spending more time doing paperwork for the government than I'm actually focusing on my business. So I was like, I want to
Yeah.
move and I want to see like what kind of country would be better for setting up this business. So at that time, I came across Estonia because Estonia is famous for its 0% corporate tax, and it has like just 20% tax on dividends. So when you take the money out as private person. So do you see a lot more, let's say, companies around you, like, budding up, or like, is it really not such a huge difference that you actually see on the ground? Because many companies are also just virtual. They hire an office, have a mailbox or something there. Do you see some like actual changes like in the number of companies which are like growing in Estonia, or like is it like not so dramatic?
I, from my own personal experience, I think that is the main reason why people move here, generally, apart if you're not a student. Because from my own experience as well, it's really good. I mean, the paperless work that you need to do, there's almost zero bureaucracy, and everything that you need to do, you can do through internet. So there are a lot more people that are coming in here for that exactly for that
Mhm,
reason.
mhm. Interesting. So let's talk a bit about the education system, Manan. So can you tell us about like how is the tuition fee and public universities, private universities, like how does everything look like?
So, well, there are two main universities in Estonia, right? The Tallinn University of Technology and the University of Tartu. University of Tartu is actually much more older and has much better ranking, and I believe it has much better programs as well. If you just look at the reputation, it's somewhere in the top 500 universities in the world. But the Tallinn University of Technology, which is Taltech now, is somewhere between 800 and 1,000. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but overall, the tuition fees are quite low. I remember from my program that when I rolled in, there was no tuition fee for the program, but after that, they introduced tuition fee, but then they sort of gave like 50% scholarship to others. So the tuition fee are still quite low.
Mhm.
I believe that could be a good reason. But again, I would say that University of Tartu, especially the computer science program, is really, really good and it has good reputation. So I do believe that if you want to come to Estonia for studies, then it's important to get some feedback from actual people who have gone through that program.
And like in numbers, Manan, like, can you give me a rough estimate? Like, so how much does these tuition fees are now if you have like taken a look or something?
I haven't taken a look, but
Hmm.
I mean, it could be under, I think I'm not sure exactly on the number, but it could be under 3K or 5K per
Okay.
year.
Okay. Okay. And do you also have to show some kind of financial security? For example, in Germany, when you come, you have to show a blocked account, which is 863 euros per month. So a total of 10,000 euros before you come to Germany and you get the student visa. Do you have something similar
Um,
there?
no, no, not really. You just have to show the usual proof that you need to secure for a visa, but nothing like Germany.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. That also sounds good. And then
Mhm.
how much are the living costs in Estonia?
Well, well, I also talk about it in one of my videos, and it's quite famous actually. I
Mhm.
don't know why, but since I've been living here for quite a long time, the general perception of people is that Estonia is a quite cheap country. But since I've been to Germany, I've lived in Germany myself as well. I can tell you right away there are a few things, or there are quite a few things that are actually a lot cheaper in Germany than they are in Estonia, for example. Groceries are really cheap in Germany than they are in Estonia. Groceries in Estonia are really expensive. Plus, you don't have much variety. Second thing is housing. I mean, housing in Estonia is cheaper, but comparing when you look at the relative income levels, it's not that cheaper. It's definitely not that cheap. It's relatively not so much. Third thing is if you want to buy clothes, electronics, cosmetics, these kind of things, they are again a lot more expensive in Estonia than they are in Germany. So what my recommendation to all the people who want to come to Estonia generally is to keep in mind that your comparative salaries will be much lower because Estonia has quite lower average salaries. I think it's right now it's about 1,400 euros per month on the average, and the relative expenses are quite high. So if you're looking at saving or investing or somewhere, then there are some other options that you should consider. I mean, it makes much better sense to have your own business in Estonia rather than work in any in a normal job. But there are exceptions, of course.
Yes, of course. I want to talk about the social contributions part and everything after this.
Mhm.
But about the living costs, I think I can like at least for the Germany and Denmark is something I can compare, and also like Romania. So I've lived in these three countries, and I've also like we have set up businesses in these three countries. We had one business in Germany, one in Denmark, and now in Romania. And what we have seen is like because we had to stay in all of these countries, like Denmark is crazy expensive. Like I think it's
Yeah.
insane. We were
Mm.
living in Germany for 300 euros per month of just groceries. But now when we are like spending our summers in Denmark, we are paying anywhere from 600 to like 800 euros for the same
Exactly.
stuff, which is
Exactly.
insane. And Romania, for example, I think like Romania is a very, let's say, poor country because like you don't have people like earning a lot of money, but the prices of the groceries are comparable to what you see in Germany, which
Mm.
again like blows my mind. Like, if the salary is less, you should have like, let's say, lower grocery prices. But for sure, like Germany is like pretty cheap in that sense. And Manan, so here, what is the social contributions? Because in Germany, for example, okay, they say that the income tax is, it goes 0% for the first 10,000 euros. Then afterwards, it progresses to like 42% euros. sorry, 42%, and that's at 56,000 euros per year of income. And then you start paying 45% tax when you earn 274,000 euros. But with all of these income taxes, you always have social contributions. You have your health insurance that you have to pay. You have your pension insurance, so many like other things. What do you see in Estonia? Are the taxes like relatively high? The social contributions and stuff. Can you give us some like rough details?
Overall, I mean, since Estonia has been the only country that I've been working in here, so I don't have a much better comparison between many other different countries. But of course, I believe that the income tax is at flat 20%.
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing about is that like there are no like essentially local income tax, because when I was moving, like I was just kind of trying to take a look at all of these countries, see like where it makes the most sense. And the nice thing about Estonia is like, of course, if you want to have your own business, like if you're paying 0% taxes on profits, which is absolutely insane, like as long as you're not taking the money out as a private individual, everything is going in the company, you're reinvesting in software, you're reinvesting in people whatsoever, then you don't pay any tax, which is very nice. And I think that's why like Estonia like really blew up. I think especially in 2015, 16, I saw a lot of people like, moving to Estonia also with this. I think they had this e-residency program, which they
Yeah.
just like launched. So with this, like I think it was like pretty famous, but then like people started seeing that, okay, like you also have to pay this like 20% dividend tax, then you also have social contributions and things like that. So I think that was interesting. What is your experience so far, Manan, with going to the doctors and stuff? Like, is it easy? Do you have enough doctors available, or can you tell us a bit more there?
Like me, who are like coming as young people from uh, other countries, especially from South Asia, and we generally don't have much need to go to the doctors because we're like young, not that much needed. But I it's uh, it's I would say it's not so easy, but it's not so difficult either.
Mhm.
So you have to, first thing is to have to secure a family doctor. And it took me a while to be able to do that as well. So you need to, talk to the health agency. I mean, it's been a couple of years, so I don't even remember. But after that, you need to, for all the matters related to health, it has to be decided by your family doctor. And if you need to secure for example, some kind of a treatment, because I had one surgery that I did for my nasal septum surgery, the appointment that I got was like 8 months after. So yeah, so that's the thing. But
Mm.
uh, it's I would say there are not many doctors, but you need to be, yeah, I mean, if you need to go to the doctor, then, and if you need to go urgently, then there's always the private option, which is a lot more expensive, actually.
Yeah. I think in Germany, I think I can tell you like it's essentially more or less the same. Like if you're in the public health insurance system, the wait times can be very long. So I had a
Yeah.
very big cyst which became in my neck, and like it just completely swelled. And what you have to do is, again, you have to go to your family doctor first. You have to get a receipt from him that you are now like transferred to a specialized doctor. So I did that, and like till the time I was like running around with all of these things, I was like, this is so stupid. But if you're like privately insured, you directly go to the specialized doctor, and of course you have to pay the money yourself first. So that's a very interesting thing in the German medical insurance system, that if you're in the public health insurance system, you never lose any liquidity. Like you never have to pay money from your pocket for any
Mhm.
kind of doctor visits, any kind of like hospital surgeries. Like most of the times it's not there. So which is very solid. Like for most of the people that's like great. But like if you have something that you need to get done very soon, or like it has to be done urgently, then if you're privately insured, that's very nice. But with private insurance, first you pay the money to the doctor, then you have to give the receipts to the private health insurance, they refund you the money. So this like takes a bit of time there. But
Yeah.
the waiting periods, I think unfortunately in Germany, it's also like slowly going up. They're also saying that we need more doctors and so on. So hopefully, let's see like if things improve in Germany. But I think this is pretty much a standard in most of the European countries. Same
Yeah.
in Denmark, you have longer waiting times.
Mhm.
Hmm.
One thing I would like to mention here is that the Estonian IT infrastructure is really good in that way, because we have one central health system. So if your family doctor gives you a prescription or he refers you to anybody else, you just need to bring your ID card and they just add your number, and anybody in Estonia or any doctor can check up the information. I don't even have like prescription, so I just go to the pharmacy and they check my ID card and they just give me the medicine, the prescription
Mhm.
medicine.
The interesting thing about this is, Manan, that so we live in Denmark for our business. So we are here during the summers and we go back afterwards to, sometimes we like go a bit in Turkey, we go to India, we go to Germany, Romania, and so on. We travel around a bit. So when this entire COVID crisis hit, we were essentially in Denmark. Of course, in Denmark you can stay like for 6 months in a year without like having the need to register yourself. So we don't
Mhm.
have these like yellow cards and stuff that you essentially need to go to the doctors and things like that.
Mhm.
COVID hit and it was December. And the biggest problem that I saw is like when you have so much dependency on just like one single system that you need one card for everything. And
Oh
if
yeah.
you come there as a foreigner, you're not in the system at all. You cannot use anything. I wanted to go to the hospital because I was like coughing like a dog. For 1 month, I was like completely done. It was December and it was not getting better. And to go to the doctor, I need a COVID test, and I cannot get the free COVID test because for that you need a card. So we had to
Yeah.
take the ferry from the island, go to the mainland, get to a private clinic, do the COVID test there, come back, go to the doctor, and like then essentially like get our treatment and stuff from that. So it's definitely like an interesting system if you are like the, let's say, most of the usual cases, like if you're doing a job, if you're a student or something, I think it's really nice. But like in our situations, like we come to realize these like specific scenarios that if you're not 100% registered in that country, like I think getting access to anything just like becomes so much more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that. I think, well, COVID also itself is one thing that you don't anticipate that happening so much. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a shock to everybody.
Yes. Did you already have COVID so far? Not yet.
No, not yet. I've been very lucky. I actually traveled to Pakistan. I traveled to Pakistan twice in last year,
Mhm.
and I'm still, I'm very lucky,
That's very
thankfully.
nice. We moved to Romania in Feb. And the first thing that happened, so we are living on the island, there's no COVID cases, 6,000 people, no masks whatsoever, everything's fine. In 2021, we moved to Romania in Feb. And like the first, I think, 2, 3 weeks, like we had COVID. And like I think
Oh,
we had COVID for like 2 weeks, like it was just like not getting better. We took like paracetamol and everything that we could. The doctors were like also telling us, yeah, it will get better, it will get better, but yeah, nothing's changing. So I think like we also had the experience of that. Like if you're living in a very crowded city, Bucharest is a city with like I think over 2 million people. So
yeah,
same like in Hamburg. And I think like the entire population of Estonia is like 1 million or something.
yeah, 1.23 million.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean like that was definitely a very like different experience for us. Now talking about the population part a bit, Manan, like do you feel like, because like in India and Pakistan you just see so many people everywhere, they're just everywhere,
Yeah.
right? Do you feel this like, let's say, difference, or that like you don't see enough people? Like do you feel sad sometimes because of that, or is it like not really something that affects you?
Well, I've I've usually been an introvert, right? So most of my life I've been just a kid who likes to sit in the corner and read his own books or maybe sometimes play video games and these things. So it wasn't it didn't make me uncomfortable. But of course, it's such a huge contrast when you come from Pakistan to here that it's very, very strange. It takes you, it's like a complete flip. So you have to, it takes a lot of time for you to get used to it. And I remember that once I was, the first time that I went back home after being here for like a year and a half, 2 years, then went to a mall in Pakistan and I saw so many people, it almost, just give me like many panic attacks that how many people are here. So it's very different. But I mean, you get used to it really fast. For example, I mean, if you go from a very small island in Estonia, a very less population, to Tallinn, which is a big city, you get the same feeling. Oh my God, there are
Mhm.
so many people, and yeah. So it's relative, but you do get used to it.
Mhm. That's very nice. And now, did you also get used to the winter? Because I think that was one concern that I hate winters in Europe. I think like this is one of the worst things, especially coming from like, India. So like, how did you manage to, let's say, go through the winters? And to the people who haven't yet like, known the Estonian winter, tell us a bit about it and tell us like, how did you like cope up with that?
Well, it's something you can only experience to understand. You can't really explain it because the winters here are like it's a combination of many different things. First, it's the cold. That is, of course, cold is cold. You can. But the second thing is that it's not sunny at all. There is always clouds, and so it's always dark. Even if it's day, then it's always dark. So it's cold. Second thing, it's dark. And then the third thing is that the days are extremely short, really, really short. So this means that at I think in peak winter, the days are like 6 hours or even less. So it's a combination of these things that makes you feel like you're kind of living in a zombie land. So it's and the winters. I remember last year we had a very cold winter, so it went up to minus 15, minus 16 at maximum. The maximum that I've seen is about minus 24. And this is the kind of weather or the kind of climate where you, when you go out, then your skin actually starts to freeze no matter what you do. And you can't even open your mouth and you can't even smile because it hurt.
Yeah.
So all in all, I think it's something that I still haven't gotten used to it. Like you don't get used to it so easily. There are some things that you can do that Estonians like to do. I don't know, like skiing or uh, ice diving or these physical activities to keep them up. But I'm more towards, like I said, I'm more like an introvert, so I like to keep inside and do everything inside myself. So
Mhm.
certainly very, very difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think like and so many things like, play a role in this. For example, if you have like summer and stuff outside, everybody's outside. Everybody's out with their kids, everybody's out there with their friends and so on, and they're out in the parks, they're like taking a walk or something. You see more people around, you have like essentially more interactions, if you will. But like in winters, even like that decreases heavily. So you also see lesser people outside. You have gray weather, you have like very cold temperature and so on. And in Denmark, like they have this concept called hygge, which is
Yeah.
like yeah, essentially like comfort or something, Gemütlichkeit it's called in German. So they try to kind of make their environment more comfortable at home during these darker winter times. So having more these candle lights, so like more yellow light inside the houses, then having chocolates, then having meetings with their friends and things like that.
Mm,
So I think different countries have figured out different ways to kind of like tackle this kind of
yeah.
season. For Germany, I personally felt that like we lived in a big city like Hamburg, so there was people who needed to go out to work to earn their bread, and 2 million people is a lot of people you generally see. um, People going around, doesn't matter if it's like winters or summers whatsoever. So like in Hamburg we didn't feel such a huge difference, but when we moved to the small island on Aero, like then of course like we felt this massive difference in like how we experienced winters, and it was definitely different. So anybody like who's coming to Europe, like you have to keep in mind that yes, if you go towards the southern side, Italy, Greece, Spain, Portugal, your experiences with winters is going to be different. But in northern Europe you generally have this very cold winters that you have to also like calculate with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Perfect. And Manan, can you tell me then a bit more about the job opportunities in Estonia?
Well, regarding job opportunities, I think the first and the most obvious option is, of course, jobs related to IT, especially, I mean, I would say like 3 or 4 years ago, if you were in any way related to IT or software development or anything, then you would have definitely gotten a job. And generally, the salaries between a non-IT and IT, there is almost a difference of almost double, nearly double difference in salaries, average salaries. But right now, I would say that if you have any specialty IT jobs like a business developer, for example, working in IT, or you have good experience in other big companies related to any IT industry, then I think Estonia is the best place that you can be, because if you compare the salaries in IT related to the expenses, then you're definitely getting above average salary compared to everybody else, and the expenses are still lower. So I would say um, being in the IT industry is probably the best thing that you can do if you want to live in Estonia. Other than IT, there are some issues mainly related to language, of course, because if you work in customer service, or if you work in hospitality, or if you work in, for example, marketing or these areas, then you need some kind of introduction or need for Estonian, but that need is sort of eliminated in IT. So I always tell students or other people who are willing to come to Estonia that try to secure a job in that field or in that company in whatever role, and then that's probably the best option to be here.
Mhm. Of course, I think that's a very good tip. Um, Now, a bit about, let's say, the integration into the the Estonian culture, right? So, first of all, do you see a lot of foreigners in Estonia, and what, how is the attitude of, let's say, Estonian people towards foreigners?
Well, a few things about Estonia generally. So Estonia, I mean, you must have been to East Germany as well, which was
Hmm?
part of like Soviet bloc as well. And Estonia was part of that for to very mid 90s almost. So Estonia has been closed off for a very long time. I mean, the older generation or the people my age, they already remember the Soviet times when Estonia was completely closed. So that has made a big difference in the mentality of generally the people, especially the older generation, my generation as well. And this means that they are a bit more conservative. They're not very, you can say, open arms, welcoming towards other foreigners that are coming here. I remember that I came to Estonia in 2014. I mean, I hardly ever saw any person different colored like me in but now it's growing more and more and more, and I see a lot more people like me who are in Estonia, who are starting to live here, who are slowly integrating as well. But overall, I would say that if you compare it to other bigger countries which have been open for more time, like for example Sweden or Germany or even Denmark, then I would say Estonia has still a way to go with respect to
Mhm.
integration and welcoming other people.
It's very interesting that you share this, because I feel the same thing essentially. So we, of course, lived in Germany and in Denmark. So we essentially like never faced any, let's say, drama like for being of a different color in Germany at all. Like, which is, I think, very counterintuitive. Like you would think that like Germans are like, let's say, very cold, and like they don't like to like welcome people and things like that. For me, the experience was completely different. But for
Mm.
example, in Denmark, when I live on a small island where there's essentially like nobody
Yeah,
who's brown, like people look at you. When we go to Romania, so for example, my experience with Romania is like very different. I think like in Romania, people are also like more conservative. Like it's again the Eastern Bloc that was
yeah,
there at that time with USSR. And you'd see this thing that like they're not so happy with the foreigners. And like when you compare it with like, Spain, France, Germany, and other Western countries, then of course like it's a definite difference. Like nobody's going to come to you and like tell you, hey, like what the fuck are you doing here?
yeah.
But it's just like you feel that sometimes.
I would say it's more like it's not active
Yeah,
discrimination.
yeah.
It's more a passive thing. Like sometimes when I don't know, it's just a very simple thing. Like you're sitting in the bus, and there is an empty seat, and somebody's sitting beside, and you sit on the empty seat, and then the other person just goes up and leaves. So I mean, you can't always say that they are discriminating against you.
Yeah,
Maybe they had something they needed to figure out. But you can actually feel it when it's different
yeah.
or it's because of you. So it's more, yeah, it's more like that.
You're right. You're 100% right. I think like many people also like project their insecurities over other
Yeah,
people and over the situation that happened. Like maybe the other person just has a bad day or something, or like maybe he just likes his privacy. But you're right, like when something like racist happens, then you will know it, like you will actually have the intuition for that.
yeah,
So but like I think fortunately in this day and age, like people are educated enough that like it is like safe to live in most of the countries. It's really not a
yeah,
big issue at all. And I think it's the
yeah.
same. Yeah, yeah. Perfect. And Manan, can I ask you about the permanent residency and citizenship part? Like, how long does it get naturalized and like the permanent residence?
So, well, I would say that if you're looking for permanent residency, then there isn't much advantage over like the temporary resident permit that you have. I've like looked into it a bit more, and I don't know what the situation is within Germany, but you don't get much benefits between temporary and permanent resident permit. Um,
Hmm.
and you can get that after 5 years of working here. The study part is counted as half. So 2 years of study are counted as 1 year, and then the working, of course, is counted towards your your permanent residency.
Hmm.
And the citizenship is also not so easy. I mean, there are some different things like Estonia doesn't offer dual citizenship, so you have to leave any old citizenships that you might have. It's also a total of 8 years, which I think is similar to Germany as well. And you
Yeah.
need to give the language exam, Estonian, I think it's B1. And you also need to give the Estonian constitution exam or something like that, which is also mandatory for your citizenship. So it's definitely not an easy thing if you compare it to, for example, Sweden or, for example, Finland, which offer. I know that for a fact, Sweden, and you don't necessarily need a language exam, and you also can keep dual citizenships as well.
Hmm. Yeah. So essentially, like it's very streamlined in Germany because like they just see so many foreigners. I was reading a recent article that Germany needs 200,000 immigrants per year to keep their social system intact, that they're still
Yeah.
able to pay out rent, this pension to the older people and to the unemployment and so on. So they're definitely like, trying to make it more and more lean that like more people can come inside and like start working.
One thing I would like to mention is that I actually have a blue card. I actually have an EU blue card,
Mm.
but the blue card, uh, the benefits are so different across different states that, for example, I know that in Germany, if you have a blue card, then you get the permanent residency the time requirement is shortened. But in Estonia, it's not so at
Okay.
all. So you get everything is the same. So
Hmm.
blue card is necessarily like just a normal temporary residence.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, yeah, but I think this is also something which changed recently. When it wasn't like always that they gave the blue card people priority. I think it changed in back in 2012 or something. But it's
Mhm.
still like pretty recent.
Yeah.
Nice. And I guess I think like in Estonia you also don't like need a visa or something, right, to travel around. It's a Schengen country or no?
Yeah.
Okay,
We are Schengen. So yeah, no need for any other
nice.
visa.
And Manan, if you would give one, let's say, what do I say? Like if you would have to like make a case for Europe, so why should people move to Europe and why should people not move to Europe? What are your let's say best advices or like let's say best arguments for this?
I think the best case for moving to Europe, especially for if I look at myself, is that um, you have to understand how much of your mindset, your attitude, and everything that you consider yourself is a part of your environment. So how much of you is just because you were born in India or Pakistan or I don't know, Bangladesh or someplace. So when you move here, then you tend to realize that okay, things can be done differently. There is sense in what they do as well, and how are things done here. So I think it's very important to have this mindset to be open and try to like my whole thing is like to self-develop more and to like be more self-aware, and you can only do that if you put yourself in different situations. And I believe that Europe with its history and its people and everything, it's just so diametrically opposite from where, for example, I come from, that it kind of turns you into a better functioning, better working person. So you tend to know who you really are. So yeah, that's what I would say is the best case for moving to Europe or to any other developed country. The case for not moving to Europe, I would say, is that if you are thinking that you would, I don't know, magically start earning a lot more, or you would magically become rich, I don't think that is the
No.
best way. And if you also think that you are just moving here for getting a passport and to just settle here, then my advice would always be to that if you stay here long enough, I mean, passport is just a measure of time, right? 5 years, 8 years, it's passive. You don't have to make any effort. You just have to lie down there and sleep or do whatever, and you'll get the passport. The real thing is that, okay, what are you going to do with your passport? Because if you're broke and you have a European passport, what's the benefit? You can't travel much anyway.
Yeah.
So try to, look at things not from the perspective of very, very long term, but also short term as well. That, okay, am I doing what I really like right now, like this month? Because you don't want to work like 8 years at a shitty job to get a passport, and then what will happen then? You'll so get used to the shitty job that the ninth year would be the same one. So I mean, what I would say is that don't expect things to change so much. Things will change. They will not. You will not change so much unless you're willing to. And if you have problems back at home in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, you're bringing those problems here as well. So might as well solve them there and then come here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like about the part where you added about your argument for Europe, I think I would also like to add that like Europe also gives you essentially the environment where you can develop yourself or try a different version of you,
Yeah.
because essentially like you see so many people doing their own things and you're like, okay, like so I don't have to like conform to everything that I was told previously, so I can like try new things, I can try to be a different person, I can try to be more open and so on. For me, like I think moving to Germany was a very big step for me to be able to like let's say open up my camera and like start recording myself and say, okay, like nobody's going to say anything because they see me doing something which is essentially like would be considered like very weird during those times. I think like back in 2015, 16, like nobody like was very happy about like people running around on the street with their cameras in front of them, but like essentially in Germany nobody cared. And that was something like which I found like very interesting. And of course I think you really nailed the part about like not coming to Europe. And that is like, if you think like you will magically become like rich, that doesn't really happen. Like people have to understand that Europe is a very still like a socialistic let's say environment where people who are not having a lot of money, you will take money from the people who have more and give it to the ones who don't have so much. So the taxes and stuff you will see generally a bit higher, especially towards the Western European side. Eastern European countries still incentivize people to like move their businesses there, provide more employment in these countries. Romania, for example, they have a 1% tax on like revenue, and you have to pay 5% tax on your dividends, and that's it. But like then you see like more and more essentially like companies moving there and like seeing more and more manufacturing plants and stuff like opening up. So you will see these things that if you're earning a lot as an employee, like you will just pay more in taxes and so on. So I think always think about what kind of separate projects you can start. I think that's always interesting in your journey of growing up as a person essentially. I think that's pretty much my biggest thing. Like I think like once you start your own business, like the things you learn, like there's no cushion, right? There's nobody like who is going to like give you the salary at the end of the month. You have to figure
Yeah.
it out for yourself. So I think like that also like really helps you grow as a person. And especially in Germany, like starting up a business was also very easy. Like it was very, very simple. Perfect. And Manan, do you have any other advices or last tips that you would like to share with the viewers?
I think it's important. We already talked about the case for moving and the case for not moving as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I would just like to say that when you move to a different place, try to keep an open mind about yeah, about the things, about people and everything. And because I mean, try to understand why things are the way they are right now, instead of trying to telling or putting your mindset or putting your previous attitudes on the others. I mean, it's not necessary that all of the things that we learned back home are wrong, but it's not necessary that all of these things that we learned back home are correct as well. Maybe they were right for that environment, but probably not this environment. So what I would say is just keep an open mind, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your tips. I was just taking a look at your channel, like, while we were talking on the side. I think the next thing that I'm going to do is like go through all of your videos after this, because I think the content looks very, very interesting. And like also I think like a bit more deeper content. So guys, if you're watching this video, take a look at Manan's channel. He has been talking about all sorts of stuff, which is like mostly very interesting, and you will like really love it. The links for some of my favorite videos you will find in the description below. Thank you so much, Manan, again for joining me on this call, and I'll see you later. Bye.
So much. Really appreciate that. Take care.